Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Friday, April the 12th, 2013, and here are our top stories.
Tonight, treason alert. Democrats try to move gun bill forward without allowing senators to read it. Then, a shocking UN report covers up Barack Obama's role in arming terrorists. And who gave North Korea nukes in the first place? Find out tonight on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Well, in a tactic we've seen before when Obamacare was passed, we now see the Democrats with their next signature transformation of our society, gun control, doing the same thing. That is, introducing a giant bill and trying to cram it through before anybody really knows what's in it. Or as Nancy Pelosi says, we have to pass it so we can find out what's in it.
These are the rights that we're trying to protect by requiring a 60-vote threshold on any new gun control legislation. And in so doing, we're trying to prevent the ability of members to push through legislation before anyone has had time to read and evaluate the language. And yet, as of this morning, as of this very moment, not a single senator has been provided the legislative text of that very provision.
Well, that effort by Senator Mike Lee and Senator Rand Paul to try to slow things down so that people know exactly what's in this failed. And it failed with the help of 16 Republicans. In an article on InfoWars, Treason Alert, Democrats try to move gun bill forward without allowing senators to read it. You'll see a list there, the 16 senators. And there's some quotes there that are kind of interesting. Mike Lee says, "We're trying to prevent the ability of members to push through legislation before anyone has had time to read and evaluate the language. As of this morning, as of this very moment, not a single senator has been provided the legislative text." And even Dianne Feinstein said, well, I haven't seen the bill, so I'm going to reserve my concerns. I only know what people have told me. We've seen this all before. We saw it with Obamacare. And we've seen what we're seeing here, and take a look at these 16 senators here, because these are the senators that I like to call, many of them are the NDAA wing of the Republican Party. These are people like Richard Burr out of North Carolina, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and joined in all of this is a new senator, Pat Toomey, relatively new, who has joined with Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, and they've put forward a background check bill into this that is something that we should all be very concerned about. Even the ACLU is concerned about a national registry, and when you have the ACLU, no friend of the Second Amendment, joining with the NRA, concerned about the civil liberties ramifications of this, that's something you should be worried about. But these are senators who are not concerned about our civil liberties. They've come after the Fourth Amendment. They don't care about your right to be searched in the airports. They don't care about your due process in the Sixth Amendment. They put up the NDAA. And now they're coming after the Second Amendment. And these are senators who, like Senator Burr out of North Carolina, I know from having lived in North Carolina that he voted for TARP. He is also a supporter of NDAA. And he even introduced and sponsored a bill to punish whistleblowers. We don't want anybody like Bradley Manning who's going to tell us what the government is really up to. Those types of people need to be punished severely, according to Richard Burr. Well, we've got also some information about what amendments may be coming up on this. And this is something we need to watch closely. Harry Reid has said he's going to keep the amendment process open. And Roll Call magazine talks about some of the things that may be coming up, some of the amendments that may be coming up. Some of these are good amendments, possibly won't be passed. The first one is a concealed carry amendment, which would essentially stop people who have a concealed carry permit from being harangued if they travel into a state like New York, for example. A lot of people have run afoul of New York laws because they had weapons in their trunk that were safely stored that other states would recognize, or because of their concealed carry, they're not allowed to carry in New York. It becomes a tripwire, traveling from state to state and having different gun laws in each of those states. But number 2 on this list is one of the things I want to take a quick look at, and that's the mental health records provision. Now, this is something that is being put forward by a lot of Republicans, and Democrats are backing away from this. But also is supported by the NRA. But I find it troubling, and we should all be very concerned about this push to try to deflect some of the regulations onto people who are mentally disturbed, for example. As we pointed out, the people who are doing these mass shootings are typically on psychotropic drugs that are prescribed by the psychiatric people, and this is something that, you know, they're expanding this to get people and trap people that have just had antidepressant medication, and to expand that to everybody that's in their family. So this is something that we really need to be concerned about, because this is something that is having the guns taken away from people who are not found guilty of a crime or a felony. They're just people who have been reported by a psychiatrist or mental health official, and we need to be very concerned about that. Even if the NRA supports that, I don't think that is something that we should be comfortable with, that people lose their due process. Also in there are, as a third thing in this list, is armed prosecutors being, it's a possible amendment that may come in, that is, armed prosecutors may be allowed to carry weapons, because we've just had two recent shootings here in Texas. One of them, a prosecutor, a judge, and another law enforcement person. They're going to give, though, special favors to law enforcement personnel. They're going to be a special class of person. So while you and I will lose our rights to keep and bear arms, we're going to see law enforcement officials at the state and federal level get special privileges. And not only would they be allowed to carry weapons, but this proposed amendment would allow them to carry and obtain any ammunition magazine of any size. So we see all kinds of exemptions being put in for government officials. We see essentially a two-class structure here of who is allowed to own firearms and who isn't. But don't worry about that. According to Biden, this is all just in your imagination, and they would never take away your firearms. Remember, he made those promises early on, but now he says anybody that's concerned about gun control, about gun confiscation, about losing your gun rights, that's part of the black helicopter crowd. And Jakari Jackson has a report on that.
Let me read some of the things they're saying about background checks. They say, quote, "We, the federal government, want to put every private firearms transaction right under the thumb of the federal government and keep all those names in a massive federal registry." Kind of scary, man. Black helicopter crowd really is upset.
I'm Jakari Jackson with an InfoWars News Bulletin. Vice President Joe Biden is once again criticizing those concerned about their Second Amendment rights, calling them, quote, the black helicopter crowd. Now, InfoWars has well documented how black helicopters are very much real and active in the United States.
Helicopters and the sound of gunfire created a lot of concern this afternoon in one Houston neighborhood.
It's a joint military training exercise involving local police, also military, as someone shot some video of some of these choppers, military-style choppers.
If you see military helicopters flying low over Minneapolis, do not be alarmed. They are training in an urban environment. The U.S. Special Operations Command will be conducting these exercises until the beginning of September.
Now let's take a look at a different part of Biden's speech, where he says not only is there no FBI database of firearm purchases, according to him, the FBI shreds purchase information immediately after processing.
And within 24 hours of being told that you can sell that gun, the FBI must destroy the information. There is no record kept.
And this reporter may have been fooled by Biden's rhetoric had it not been for these articles. Even Congress wants to know what the NSA is doing with its $2 billion Utah Spy Center, ATF to spy on gun owners via massive database, Big Sis Snitch program to help enforce gun control, U.S. to let spy agencies scour Americans' finances, and Utah welcomes NSA Mega Snoop Center. But you say, well, none of those were the FBI. We can still trust the FBI, right? Well, let's take a look at these articles. FBI caught lying to spy on reporters. FBI caught lying about carrier IQ spying. And FBI made up threats at peace rally, lied to Congress to justify spying activity. And just in case you think Biden misspoke like Mrs. Clinton when she misspoke about having to dodge sniper fire, let's take a look at these clips of Biden saying he did not vote for war.
They talk about this Great Recession if it fell out of the sky, like, oh my goodness, where did it come from? It came from this man voting to put 2 wars in a credit card, to at the same time put a prescription drug benefit in the credit card, a $1 trillion tax cut for very wealthy. I was there. I voted against him. I said, no, we can't afford that. I was there. I voted against him.
I said, no, we can't afford that.
And if that didn't convince you, let's take a look at his actual Senate voting records. So there you have it, documented proof that we can trust Joe Biden, who never lied about guns or wars or anything else. The government loves us and wants us to do well, so thank you, Joe Biden, for pointing that out. I'm Jakari Jackson with an InfoWars News Bulletin.
I said, no, we can't afford that.